This is the Lunatics and Legends podcast. In this episode, we are going to be discussing things that are for entertainment purposes only. Don't freak out. We're just having fun.
I'm supposed to believe what they say. I'm sorry. I need to do my own research.
Yeah.
Let me dig into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you actually had an honest conversation with most people, you would find that what you believe about them is not true.
Well, I think where things are going off the rails is that the unifying event is largely the fact of hopelessness. I'm never going to be able to afford a house. I can barely afford a car. I get paid trash. And I
think, the biggest, we talked about it earlier, the biggest challenge that you have is the employee that existed pre-COVID no longer exists.
I was just about to mention that.
You track down terrorist groups, narco-terrorist groups, all of it, right, in my day and still today,
right,
follow the money.
Right.
It's the same thing here. Follow the money. Who's making the profits here? Right, you install the motive. You don't install motive in the person. You already find out what's sitting in them, and then you control the environment, you control the behavior, you control the narrative, and they do it anyway.
And then you control them.
And they're all driven that way, right? So, because we all have that, right? In some form or another of things that we want in our lives. You want to be a family man, you're going to do that. If you want to be, a good whatever, you start to do that because it's in you. It wasn't put in you.
Well, and that goes to the psyops that we have going on right now, where it's like, I consider myself a patriotic American.
Yep.
I'm sure somebody on the other side believes they're a patriotic American, and the other person on the other side, because I am not in this, two-party system, they believe they're a patriotic American, but it's all about the route in how to get to that utopian America. And some people believe that destroying America is the way to get to that utopian America. Right. And so they get radicalized through
Why
the other
do you
means.
think there's this resurgence of socialism, right?
Yeah.
They think that's a good idea.
Right.
It's been proven time and time again.
Talk to anybody who's survived a socialist government.
It doesn't work, but it sounds good on paper.
And Jordan B. Peterson just recently said that as far as the most wild results driven attachment to socialism is low IQ. Right. That when they did studies on it, the overarching statistic was when a person was a socialist, they tended to be a lower IQ. Now, granted, of course, Jordan B. Peterson is going to have his own opinions considering, which side of the field he's playing on.
People reach for these terms and they have no idea what they mean. The most anti-Semitic culture out there is calling people fascists, other people fascist. And I'm like, you obviously don't know what a fascist is, right? So,
right.
Otherwise you wouldn't be using that term.
Right.
They just reach for terms because it's a motive.
Right.
Not because there's any basis in fact. And to your point, if you're not read up, intelligent, whatever you want to call it, then you believe that. You think, oh, right, that's what they're doing. And the truth is that's not what they're doing.
Right.
But it's what you want to believe.
Yeah. And for a very long time, that was the end all be all. All I have to do is call you a fascist, call you a Nazi, and anything that you say is invalid at this point.
That's right. Even
though
you
dehumanized him with those words is your intention, but those words don't dehumanize anybody anymore because they're so grossly used out of context.
Right. Agreed.
Now everybody's a fascist if you don't like them.
There has to be like a fascist logical fallacy at this point. I'm sure it falls into a subcategory, but my point being
right. Well, and if you don't believe the way I believe, you're a racist. And if you don't believe the way I believe, you're whatever, right?
Insult.
Insult. Yeah. Both sides. Doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter.
Very true.
Right. You're just amassing evidence to prove that you're right because you have this, this philosophy. And it goes back to my point of if people would just sit down and start doing some research, start looking at, argue with, if we're having a discussion and we're reading, we've studied, we obviously did some research before we got here today, then I go, oh, I didn't know about that. It's interesting. I'm going to have to, now because I'm thinking in my mind, there's a couple of things I want to look at now.
Right.
But the idea is if I want to live, if I'm, why am I taking the word of somebody else?
Right.
Just
Back to
because
critical
they're
thinking.
in a news station of talking head,
right?
I'm supposed to believe what they say. I'm sorry. I need to do my own research.
Yeah.
Let me dig into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you actually had an honest conversation with most people, you would find that what you believe about them is not true.
Yeah. However, you also want to paint them with a broad stroke because you believe this ideology.
Of course.
And there it is.
Right. It's cognitive dissonance. I'm going to only see what I want to see.
Right. And I see it so much on both sides. And
yeah, doesn't matter what side you're on.
Truthfully,
doesn't matter. Both sides do it. Let's be real, right? It's almost impossible to have a discussion with them because it's all emotion.
Right.
It's not basis in fact.
Right.
So if we want to sit down and discuss, because, the truth is, like even Bill Maher, who is a
grifter.
No, but I wouldn't say that. I'd say he's liberal.
Yeah.
But what was liberal then is not liberal now.
Agreed.
Very true.
Right? So I think he's still holding his line. I just think that the line that he was on has moved so far left.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, this is not what I signed up for.
And I would say the same about the right.
No, of course. Hey, man, we're moving way too far that way.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to sit down and discuss and come up with a solution that 85% of us can get behind and push.
Yeah. And
it's either this way or that way, and there's nothing in the middle.
I think the wild thing is that we don't talk enough about society to the younger generations. And so you have these Gen Z kids that have no idea what it felt like immediately after 9/11 because they weren't even born. Right. And
same thing with World War II, Korean War, right? All that has gone by the wayside, and it's not.
We don't have a unifying event for this generation.
I think the unifying event for this generation is the fact that they don't have a unifying event.
Right.
I don't disagree with you, but they're never going to see that way. And how do you explain a situation and a circumstance to someone that never, that wasn't able to experience it because they didn't exist yet? You can explain it to them. We can explain World War II. We can explain all of these different things, all these unifying events.
Vietnam, et cetera.
Yeah. But how do you get them to have that same emotional attachment to it?
Yeah.
Well, I think where things are going off the rails is that the unifying event is largely the fact of hopelessness. I'm never going to be able to afford a house. I can barely afford a car. I get paid trash. And and so there is a sense of victim mentality there. And I'm not going to say that it's arguably wrong.
No.
However, now you're having things like the situation going on with Iran that is happening but isn't happening, and it's only supposed to happen for this little amount of time, but it's not happening. And gas prices are going to continue to soar.
Food prices are going to continue to go up.
Agreed.
So I love gas prices because if you look at Exxon's profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their profit margins are
So you would think their profit margins would decline.
Right.
Or stay the same.
Right.
Based on, right? But they're almost double.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
That
it's bullshit.
Right. They're manipulating the market.
That they're hyperinflating everything. Right. And when the times are good, they're freaking great. And when the times are bad, they're pretty freaking good.
Great for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done.
Can we go back to MK Ultra? Can we do that? That was a simpler topic.
Those were simpler times.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, my whole point is that I think there is a unification of Gen Z to be feeling as though they're desperate and they can't believe in the American dream because it's not going to be there for them. Right. And I think there's multiple things that are the driver and the catalyst to them feeling that way. And then they're being swept up by socialist ideologies because I'm never going to afford a home. I'd rather just the state give me a shit box to live in. And, it's no wonder that they're steering
marching towards you'll, have nothing, own nothing, eat bugs, live in a pod, and be happy.
Well, or you'll go to universal pay system, all that stuff. And it's but the problem with the universal pay system now, that's Big Brother, right?
Right.
Oh, you know what? You were not so nice to the government on your podcast. You're only going to get half your pay this month.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're into Big Brother stuff, right?
Right.
So now where goes our freedom? So it just goes on and on and on.
I mean, you put them in a bread line because you control the bread, and that's what I'm saying is that more opportunity needs to be created for the younger generation. Of course. And largely a reason that I'm a capitalist, largely a reason that I'm an entrepreneur is because I want to be able to do that. I don't want to hire some intern and pay them trash for whatever venture I'm working on. I think people ought to be paid well because then you're going to get a better performance out of them.
Well, and it should be paid on
Merit and accomplishment.
On merit and accomplishment, not
Agreed.
because you're black,
Agreed.
white, green, yellow, purple.
100% agreed. Or age or whatever.
Doesn't
I'm
matter
just
to me.
saying,
If you produce results, here's your pay, right?
yeah,
That's it.
we're talking
I
about
want a successful business. I want people that are going to produce results.
Yeah,
I
I
can
don't
care
care
less
what they
about
want,
anything
yeah.
else. Yeah. Talk about incentivizing people to do more and accomplish more.
right.
And I think, the biggest, we talked about it earlier, the biggest challenge that you have is the employee that existed pre-COVID no longer exists.
I was just about to mention that. They
So
do
that's a
exist.
challenge.
They do exist, but that's why you have to place them on a results-driven performance
'Cause
metric.
otherwise, they won't, yeah.
Yeah. But it was absolutely COVID. I remember being in a Home Depot right as COVID was going on. And granted, I was in another state. However, there were people at McDonald's dropping F-bombs through the speaker system, like at the drive-thru. And I'm like, excuse me? What?
That's the McDonald's I want to go to.
We're out of fucking coffee, man. So go somewhere else. Yeah. Became the attitude because it's dystopian. There's no hope in anything any longer, right? And that's kind of where we're at. We need to revitalize the market and create wealth
For everybody.
by creating
More
wealth.
Yeah. Not by. So it's so funny because people complain all the time about food prices. Right.
Right.
So you go to the what used to be a $5 sub sandwich is now $17.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, when you increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, I'm sorry, this is just economics. This business needs to stay in business. It needs to pay its rent, needs to pay the employees, needs to buy food, needs
Right.
to pay for the air conditioning, etc. So if you force the business owner to pay an additional $10 an hour, guess what's going to happen to the price of the food so that the business can maintain its profitability?
It has to go up.
So now the problem is the people that eat McDonald's are the people that are typically on a lower end of the pay scale.
Right.
And what you've just done, right, is reduced what they can actually buy because you increased the price of the food.
Right.
And then in order to keep the food prices reasonable, well, now you got kiosks and you have less employees.
Right.
And it just goes down the list, right? And
so
now
less employees means less workers in the market. There's less people being able to afford rent.
it just goes on and on and
It
on.
does.
And then there's this whole mind control thing happening with
Right.
the information dissemination.
And who is it that's always going to make their dollar regardless
That's right. And
of
you gotta
how much
follow-
you're getting
follow
paid?
The money. Follow the money.
The government. The government's always going to make more.
When you track down terrorist groups, narco-terrorist groups, all of it, right, in my day and still today,
Right.
follow the money.
Right.
It's the same thing here. Follow the money. Who's making the profits here?
Yeah. And it's
Anyway, that's
they're
there you
sweeping up the people that are in that headspace of dystopian futures and going, here's the answer to it. And, I'm obviously a free market guy. And here's the thing. If we have a flawed system in capitalism, if you want to call it that, right? What we have currently, and it's not able to sustain in the market, then I guess it has to go away. And I don't want that. I'm definitely a capitalist. However, if we've allowed big corporo capitalists to come in and eat things up and create oligarchies and such, then, well, here we are.
Well, I think what you have is this division, right? You're gonna have a Monaco curve, right, where you're gonna have a bunch of rich people and a lot of poor people.
Yeah.
If we don't change things, because America used to be shaped on a bell, right? And so they're destroying the middle class, right? So I can see why people get pissed off.
Yeah. Are you tired of big corporations farming you for views? So are we. We're just two poor guys that are trying to put together a podcast. So if you can give us some help by doing a like, share, comment, subscribe, or save, it helps us trend in the algorithms. Thanks.